Hey guys, how you doing? Damien Keys here. Welcome to our new pilot show. So we're going to try and do this as regularly as possible, where we're going to feature some guests and get specialist help from guys in the industry to come and give you guys advice. And I am joined today by Sandy Beales, One Direction's bass player. So we're going to talk about session playing today. We're going to talk about general playing and a few other great bits of advice from a guy who's done possibly the biggest gig on the planet for quite a few years. So, Sandy, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm really excited about this show because we're in a beautiful
pilot
house.
episode,
it is,
man.
yeah, you are
this
the
pilot. This is the start.
This is the beginning. So to start with, I mean, we got in contact a while back, and I saw you. I remember seeing you on X Factor where you played, and I remember watching, and I remember just thinking, "Fuck this!" The band is phenomenal, but I remember thinking, as a bass player myself, phenomenal bass player.
Oh, you too.
We got in touch, and we started chatting. So you've literally been on tour with the biggest project in the world. So just give us a bit of a sort of background on sort of how it started for you.
So, I studied in West London. So I studied popular music performance in West London in 2005. And then from there, kind of made a few contacts at uni and stuff, you know how you do, and then sort of played in bands, like wedding bands and stuff like that. Then began working with artists. And then, heard about the One Direction audition.
And so just before the One Direction gig, so you started getting some TV mimes. And so was that through a fixer or? No,
literally just through emails. So I got an email from a guy like, do you want to do a TV mime?
Great.
We did the classic thing of when you get into the audition and then there's no vocals.
Right.
Which is another thing I always say to students and to people who ask advice, what do you do in auditions? It's like, learn the track without the vocals.
That is great
because
advice.
they almost all do it.
Yeah.
And there's a great reason why they do it, because a lot of people learn the track and they'll learn it with the vocals cueing them, and they'll go, okay, this is where this section goes, this is where this goes. And then when you really, as you know, when you really learn a song, you know it regardless. You can take any instrument out, you take the drums out, you can take the vocals out, you still know it. Whereas that's a good way of them testing you. So when they come in, there's no vocals on the track, it's like, okay, I see what you've done there, but I'm still going to play this. Yeah, exactly.
That is great advice. That's really great advice, because one thing that I constantly find myself saying to musicians is, don't learn something until you can play it right. Learn something until you can't play it wrong.
Absolutely.
You take the vocals out, and you're put in a pressure situation where people are there judging you for a big audition, and that's when you find out whether you know something or whether you don't know.
Absolutely.
So you must have learned your stuff pretty.
Yeah, over prep, man. That's another thing I always say.
Right.
Like, drive yourself crazy with tracks. It's like if you're driving in the car, if you're in whatever situation, just play the track over and over again. There's no such thing as over prep, is there?
No, I totally agree.
I mean, you can drive yourself crazy by playing it, but it's better that way than you sort of fumble at an audition and you go, oh, I could have done better if I just prepped it a bit more. And there's I sort of feel like there's no excuse. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all got busy lives, we've all got a lot going on, but you've got that time. If you know you've got the audition coming up, just set aside the time. There's always times where you'll be watching TV or something where you could be practicing if you've got something big coming up. So I mean,
it's taking the excuse factor out.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And if there's one of those things where you're too busy for some reason, then obviously it's not right at that time. Do you know what I mean? If you've kind of got a lot else on, then it's okay for that audition to not be the right one. There's always times when there'll be another one coming around, but if you've got something that you really want to do, you've just got to give everything to it, haven't you?
Go for it.
And I mean, that's part of being a musician, isn't
Absolutely,
it? It's the craziest job in the world.
So you've now got to the audition, you've done the audition, you've played the tracks, they've asked you to come back again. Were you playing with a live band, by the way? Were you?
No, so that was just to track. The first auditions was all single, so everyone did it on their own to the track.
Right.
And then the callbacks, which was the next day, I think, was just 6 of us.
Right.
And then, so we were put into different combinations, different bands, and had to play the track. So obviously then, the pressure was really ramped up, because there was only 2 of each instrument, so we were like, this is it now.
Right.
Like, we're either the one that gets it or the one that doesn't get it, sorry.
Right.
So, pressure. But it was good. It was one of those things where it's a culmination of everything you've worked towards.
Yeah.
So by that point, I'd done kind of quite a lot of auditions. Some of them all right, some of them not so all right. So it was like one of those things where it was like...
So effectively what you're saying is, in doing lots of auditions, you'd become better at doing the auditions. Just
Absolutely.
like you practice the guitar, or you practice songwriting, you get better at it. You do gigs, you get better at gigging. You do practice, you get better at practicing. You did lots of auditions, therefore became more au fait with
Absolutely, and and don't be afraid. That's the other thing. Don't be afraid to do loads of auditions, even if you see an audition and you don't even want the gig. Just do it anyway.
Go for it anyway.
Because you learn something from every situation, don't you? Even as a musician in any capacity.
Yeah.
But if you just do loads of auditions and you see something on the internet or you get sent something, like, I'll come and audition for this band, and you're not feeling it, just do it.
I love it.
Because
and you meet people.
Yeah, exactly. And you actually might love it.
Yeah. So you do the auditions, you go the callback, you're the 50-50, and they say to you, you got the gig.
Yeah, so it ended up in the room, me, Josh Devine, the drummer, and Dan Richards, the guitarist. John was already the MD and keys player because he was the one that was auditioning us. Right. And it ended up, the four of us in the room for the first time, and then 5 years later, here we are.
Wow. So just going back to where it's sort of, just you're in it, how does it work then? So because obviously you're not a writer, you're there as the guy, they just say, I need you to do A, B, and C. So what does your life become then over a period of a year? Because they're a busy band. How would it work from a kind of daily, weekly, monthly vibe?
I guess because we were touring so regularly, there was kind of none of those gaps that people often get of like there'd be a promo gap and then a touring gap. It was sort of, we just toured.
Just kept going.
The whole year because there was so much demand.
Wow.
So obviously we kind of just rolled out the tours. So a year would work, we'd tour February to September, then promo October to December. Wow. So that was the same every year. So that's just the way it rolls.
So busy. And so from sort of early mornings, late nights, was it consistent or was it?
I guess it all depended where we were touring.
Right.
So sometimes we would drive on the bus, you'd wake up in the venue, play the show, get on the bus, wake up in the next venue.
Right.
And then it all depended on the scale. So near the end, because we were playing stadiums, there was more of a gap in between shows, which was great. So we'd do a stadium, then 3 days and do the next stadium, which is brilliant. Got to see more of countries and kind of explore a bit more and everything like that.
So how do you obviously knackering as well, tiring how do you deal with that amount of gigs, lack of sleep, travelling all over the place?
I get you've just got to do it. Right. You've just got, because there's no choice, is there?
So stubbornness and determination.
Yeah, it's such a rare career in the sense of, we were actually talking about this the other day, and it's none of us took a day off in 5 years. And there's almost no other job where that would ever happen, really, is there?
No.
When people ask for tips, one thing is definitely just be easy to get along with.
Right.
People, it's all good to be the most monstrous player in the world and have all the chops, all the technique down. Yeah. If you're hard to get along with and you rub people up the wrong way and you're abrasive, people aren't going to want to tour with you.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many musicians out there, aren't there?
I mean, it's a supply and demand issue. I mean, one thing which I noticed with when Katie organises a lot of this sort of stuff. So we were in the office, and every time Katie would email you, she'd literally go, how has he even had the time to read the email? And he's emailed me back. It was like we both look at it, go, literally the email would go out to you and it would be back so fast.
That's so glad to hear that. And I'm so glad that people notice that.
But it's little details like that make a massive difference. I meet so many musicians, and even things like, I notice things like if they turn up 5-10 minutes late because I'm there first and I'm waiting. Not a massive big deal, but there's little details like that.
Isn't it? Like, it's because you remembered that.
Yeah, because you know
what I mean.
Absolutely.
Like a big unfortunate thing is people don't always remember when you do a great job, but people know when you've done a bad job.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So like that's a perfect thing. Like I say, like personally with admin and with turning up on time, that's as important as being a musician. Yeah. Like the MD or management send an email out. If they hear back from you straight away, they're happy with what you've done. Right. If they don't hear back from you 2 hours, 3 hours later, or at all, they're not going to be happy about that. Yeah, they sent you an email because they wanted an answer. Yeah. And if you're not giving them that answer straight away, it rubs people up the wrong way, doesn't it?
Because I'm dealing with more musicians now than I ever have. The Facebook's going really, really great, plus obviously the management company. But it is so frustrating when you send an email out or a text or however contact. People don't tend to ring nowadays. It's just one of those things. So you just send a message out, comes back again, and it is frustrating when you're thinking, did they get my message? Did they not? You know that you've got the message because nowadays, it's 2016. I mean, we're not in a cave. Yeah. So people get the messages. So you just start thinking, well, am I not a priority? Am I not there? I mean, but one thing we noticed was in our dealings, everything that we've done has just been, the word I would use is easy. You have made it, every process along the step, so easy. every aspect of this process hasn't been me going, oh, I guess I'll have to think about this. It's just been an easy process. And I feel like that is such a massive part, because that is effectively, as you know, nowadays a session player is a term that's been used for, you know, decades, but nowadays a session player is just someone who gets paid to play, to turn up and play. But it's someone who actually just makes your life easier. You know, for your job to make the tour manager have an easy life, or to make whoever's organizing things, when they look around and they just go, look, I've got to deal with 5 pop stars who, you know, I'm sure that's hard enough to deal with at the best of times. Then to look around and go, oh, where's the
what are the band doing?
You know, so the musicians that go, I'm going to make this so easy for you that you just, it's going to be detrimental for you not to have me on this gig, because you're going to have a tougher life without me than with me.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that. I'm really glad that people notice, because it's so good to I think that ethos is so important, to make people's life easy. Yeah. It just makes everyone happier, doesn't it? Yeah. It just means that you're not causing any hassle, and you're not like bringing anything like that. You're not bringing anything to the table that's negative. It's just literally, that process was easy. And I mean, especially with management, they've got so much to deal with. Yeah. They've got X, Y, and Z. They've got a million things to deal with. They don't need anything else adding to their plate. Yeah. Absolutely. So if you can come in and you can do all this,
to make it as easy as possible.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I actually paid Damien about 50 quid to say all these things. So number 1 tip, bribery. Always bribe them before you start, before the cameras are rolling. Yes, he did it.
So the next thing, you know, it's all going mental. It's going crazy. One thing, your Twitter, I noticed, is like, you have like 900,000.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And so these, I mean, the One Direction fans are, they're
loyal, man.
They are loyal, yeah. Pretty full on loyal. Which must be very weird. You know, over a period of time, you know, you are literally surrounded by people following your every single move. As you're building this following, and then you start to, you know, over periods of time, whether One Direction take a break, whatever it's going to be, then I'm guessing these followers, same thing with the contacts, they stay with you.
Yeah,
and so
you're very lucky with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so as then you start to get off, I'm sure you start to get offered other gigs and other things. How do you then start to juggle a point where One Direction 5 years and it is like every day, nothing. You can do nothing. It literally is your life. Is someone tells you what to do, and it's a life as opposed to a full-time job. A full-time job, you can go home at the end of the day.
Yeah, good point.
You are literally lifestyle choice. You are literally 24/7. That's just the way that it works. That's what you do.
True.
And then, you know, when there is hiatuses, when things do calm down for a while, at what point then do you kind of start looking at it going, okay, well, what do I prioritize? Or obviously you're going to get a lot of people who contact you and say, oh, I hear you're free.
Sure.
And then it comes juggling certain things, you know, certain tours that you're offered. How then does it go from, you know, sort of other tours which may be smaller or studio things? How do you then start to juggle projects? Because obviously there's not many One Direction style projects in the world, so there's not many which will just be like, no, this is 24/7, clear your schedule. You know, if you're in the Foo Fighters, that's it, that's just period. But you know, but then at the same point there's lots and lots of artists that go, oh, I tell you what, as you've got some free time, I could do with a week of your time here, or I could do with you in the studio here, or however it's going to be. Then it becomes more of a juggling act.
I used to have this ethos when I was younger. I used to say yes to everything. Yeah. So any gig, any recording, no matter what it was, I would say yes to it, and I'd just do it. Yeah. And that was kind of, that worked so well. Did so many different things with so many different people, which was great. But I think sometimes it's quite nice to sort of spend a bit of time and think, okay, now I just want to tour for a bit, or now I just want to do this for a bit, and kind of compartmentalize it that way. And it's not always that easy, because especially with things like recording, it's not like you can just record 7 days a week, and it's not late 90s anymore, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean? So you can't just be in a session every day of the week. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's about readjusting, like you say, the balancing act. So if one act is saying we're going to be out for 3 months, then you've got to think, okay, I can't book anything in that 3 months. I've got to make sure I have it free. And I mean, I don't really ever cancel on people. So if I've got something booked in, it's not, for me, it's not like, oh, that's a better offer, I'm going to take that. Obviously, there would be certain circumstances where, of course, but yeah, as a general rule, I don't cancel on people. So if I say I'm going to do something, I just do it. Yeah, great. So even if I've been offered something today, there's no way I would have gone and turned around to you and gone, I'm not coming in. That wouldn't happen. DK, he's got my back. But yeah, exactly. Like but everyone works differently. Yeah. Everyone's got a different level of what they do, how they do it, and that's fine. There's a million different ways of being professional, I guess, and conducting yourself.
That's something we talked about earlier on. Is there's no one way of doing something.
No.
There's just lots of ways, and it's finding your way and what works for you. Because everyone's got different talent. Everyone's got different a different skill set, different personality. You know, I talk to quite a lot of people who are very shy, and so they're like, I want to build my content, but I don't feel comfortable being on the camera doing that sort of stuff.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well that's fine. We need to come up with a new strategy for whatever it's going to be. And I think that's really good advice. That, you know, it's about knowing your strengths and being very self-aware of what it is that you bring to the table, and then utilizing that to help people, you know, with making their lives easier, as we talked about.
Yeah.
So, let's do a bit of gear, because I like
the geeky stuff.
Let's do some gear. Okay, so Music Man.
Yep.
Would you say this is your main axe?
Yes. This, and I've got
yeah,
it's lovely, isn't it? The roasted maple.
Yeah.
This one, and I've also got a Californian redwoods, the kind of the quilted wood finish, 4-string with a double humbucker.
Yeah.
It's a Ray as well. So yeah, it's there. Both of those are my go-to basses. They're absolutely beautiful.
So, like, I know you as a bass player, but you play other instruments as well.
Yeah. I play synth bass as well, and I mean, a lot of anything bass really.
Anything bass.
So like upright, like fretless.
Okay, so
like
you play upright bass.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
That's really hard.
I would by no means say I've mastered it, but I can gig it.
Yeah,
it's good enough to gig it.
And so, and you do lessons as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've started doing Skype lessons. So I set it up kind of exactly what we've been talking about today, with just kind of all tips and tricks for kind of musicians all over the world, and not necessarily specific to bass.
Right.
So I do Skype lessons for, I did one a couple of weeks ago for someone in Australia who was a pianist.
Oh, that's really
And then, one in Canada for a guitarist. So kind of covering all session things, performance anxiety,
that's such a great
all the different things. And it's brilliant because all you need is a computer,
Yeah.
your instrument, and Skype.
And do you do bass lessons as well?
Yeah. So I've got a few regular bass students, which is so nice, and they're just so spread out over the world.
I have to say, you know, from a bass player's point of view, you know, there's going to be people watching going, One Direction and bass, that doesn't kind of make sense. But like, this is not just me blowing smoke, but when I watched you on the X Factor doing History, and the bass was the one, for me, it just stuck out like a sore thumb. The bass was amazing, 100% live.
You're too kind.
No, it was amazing.
Thank
It was
you.
fantastic. I feel like there are definitely bass players out there who want to get in a session, go down the session route, but also just want to get some great lessons. And that is great. You don't have to actually drive halfway across the country. The fact that you can just do it on Skype, I love it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
So yeah, all the information's on my website, sandybeales.com.
Sandybeales.com, but we'll have links somewhere. Al will put links down here. Won't you, Al?
Nice.
Somewhere. I do this, but it might be up here. I don't know. One of the things that you're doing at the moment is almost like a tour to help, very similar to this sort of stuff where you're helping musicians, and it's called Stadium Success.
Yes.
Which I think is amazing. And so that is partly playing, partly industry stuff, just generally helping people, musicians to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you go into sort of colleges, schools, universities, and you do like as a masterclass.
Yeah, exactly.
And so tell us a bit about what do you...
Well, we've called it, I started it with John Schoen, the MD and keys player from One Direction, because we were sort of thinking about how we can use our experiences to sort of pass on a lot of this knowledge and a lot of these things that we have, and a lot of things we wish we'd known 10 years ago. So getting to pass that stuff down, all these kind of nice little tips. And yeah, we've built it as a kind of interactive masterclass series. So it's really built around the whole middle section of the masterclass is the students getting up and playing.
Great.
So hearing session mixes, hearing track, dialing in their own sound, playing to a click. And then me and John are there to kind of...
Be the MD.
Exactly, be the MD.
Right.
Speak about our experience, because it's so rare for session players to get to do stadiums and things, isn't it? Often it's
Absolutely.
big bands like Foo Fighters or Coldplay or something. So to come at it from a session point of view and say, this is a great way of dealing with the stadium pressure, and it translates to any stage, arenas, theatres, your local pub, wherever.
Absolutely.
We just want to pass on the information that we've got and say this is a great way forward. And there's a lot of different sections, so each masterclass is tailored to the specific school.
Right.
Fits around their curriculum and everything like that. So everything is tailored for the school. So they are each getting a kind of bespoke service. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we have lots and lots of guys that are getting in touch who are at different colleges around the country. So if you're at college, this would be a great thing to have at your college. So what you need to do is just message me a link to a tutor to talk to, and what we'll do is we'll pass it on to Sandy, and you can look at.
That'd be great, yeah.
It looks great. The more you get out there and do that, just the better it is. People, that's what this is about. It's industry sort of experience. It's about getting out and doing it rather than sitting there reading it from books and just getting told it in classes. It's
absolutely
doing it.
Yeah, and there's so much that people can take from it. It's for songwriters, it's for session musicians, it's for producers, literally anyone. It's not just a session thing. It's kind of all encompassing the music industry and the way it is.
I mean, this has been amazing because this is from the point of view of rather than just how you can get it, but insights, ideas. I feel like what's really important is there's so many people out there that I talk to who have done the band thing for a while. They've just become a bit disillusioned with usually their bandmates. We get this quite a lot. I'm sure there's lots of people nodding their heads where their bandmates are not pulling their weight.
Right.
There's someone who's just being a pain, and they're just thinking to themselves, I wish it could just be about me. Maybe not a songwriter, but just be a bit more about me, where I could actually just be in control of my career. And this feels like what's great about this is you can be in control because you're ticking all the boxes, you're doing it. And I feel like there's the fact that we talked about auditions, the details of what you need to do, and even though a lot of it is common sense, yes, you don't have to be a dickhead because that isn't going to help, but I can't stress enough that when when we've talked, and I've talked with other people that do high level gigs, it's just so much easier than dealing with musicians who just live down the road that just start telling me why we can't do stuff or what's the problem, and all of a sudden I'm dealing with their problems.
Right.
And when I was at ACM, the guy who owned ACM, I was like 19, and it was this brilliant thing where I used to go in. I was just a kid. I just go in, and he'd stop me and he'd go, "Oh, you see, what you've done here is there was a monkey on your shoulder, and now the monkey's on my shoulder. Take your monkey and fuck off." And I'd be like, right. And what he meant was, dude, solve your own problems.
Right.
Take it away. Get rid of your problems.
Right.
I always remember that. I loved that.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, so now I have my own monkeys.
We've all got our own monkeys.
Yeah, we've all got monkeys. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
this has been
our
absolutely
pleasure,
brilliant. Man. And hopefully we'll get some feedback. So, feel free to comment and, send some questions, and we'll try and answer them. But yeah, thank you so much for coming down. Absolutely
Pleasure.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Sandy Beales, brilliant.
Cheers.
And hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow.